To close off this chapter on the indirect technique for entering into the phase and having lucid dreams, astral projections, or OBEs, we'll end it with his strategy for action, and then he lists a bunch of bullet points going over common mistakes that people tend to make. So he writes, indirect techniques will definitely work if practiced consistently and as described. Attempts are important in large measure due to the final result, where of course you hopefully have your phase experience, but also for the process itself, where in the beginning, especially as you're trying to build these habits, it's very important to get unlocked these things like waking up and not moving, keeping your eyes closed, having your chosen techniques sunk deep enough into your head that even at the moment of awakening, if you're not thinking all that clearly, you can still clearly recall what your chosen techniques are and start doing them right away. Actions in practice require strict attention. Study the techniques and select those that work best. Set the goal of consistent conscious waking without movement. Set an objective of performing cycles of indirect techniques while waking up. With such a clear course of action, the practitioner should never defocus his attention or dissipate his energy on other related actions, like the direct techniques, for example, which we'll be covering next, because those really are just a lot harder to come by. If the indirect techniques do not work in the course of several days, continue trying. At latest, results occur in a matter of weeks, not months or years, like some sources maintain. Goals are to be stubbornly pursued step by step, firmly and diligently. If no results occur after 10 to 20 attempts, it is better to cease practice for a week and take a rest, and then return with a fresh resolve to master the practice. Interestingly enough, it is exactly during such a break that spontaneous entrances into the phase and lucid dreams tend to happen. It's like once you take that extra pressure off your shoulders, like for a lot of things in life, shit can really get cracking after that. If success is still elusive, even after 2 weeks of trying, then a thorough analysis of the regimen should be conducted to root out any obvious mistakes or deficiencies. If overcoming them proves difficult or impossible, switching over to direct techniques, and he's going to say it again, is not recommended since they prove much more difficult than direct techniques. Instead, techniques for entering the phase through conscious dreaming should be practiced. So basically your classic lucid dreaming techniques like doing reality checks and things like that. And then here he's going to list, a lot of these bullet points for the common mistakes. Internal certainty that nothing will happen instead of believing in positive results, right? Having like a positive outlook towards your practice. Stopping the performance of techniques after an unsuccessful cycle when a minimum of 4 cycles should be practiced, where if each technique takes you 3 to 5 seconds, you have 2 to 3 per cycle. If you stop after 1 cycle or like 10 to 15 seconds, that's not long enough. Keep trying. However, you don't want to try for too long. Performing indirect techniques for an extremely long period of time, which is only like 2 minutes or more, because if it gets to that point and you're still wide awake, you're probably just too wide awake. So you're better off just falling asleep as you typically would, and then maybe going for like a dream-induced lucid dream after that, until your next awakening, that is, of course. Next one, constantly awakening to movement instead of remaining still. Switching from techniques that have begun to work instead of following them through to the end. Passively performing techniques instead of being determined and aggressive. Performing each technique separately for too long a period of time, even when it does not work, instead of switching to another technique within seconds. Excessive thinking and analysis while performing indirect techniques, or basically that just tends to, keep you too engaged and too awake. Stopping and concentrating on unusual sensations when they arise versus continuing the technique that brought them about in the first place. Extremely long anticipation upon awakening instead of immediately performing your techniques, right? Starting the moment that you wake up. Holding the breath when unusual sensations appear. Interestingly enough, that's something I've been dealing with like my entire lucid dreaming practice. Opening the eyes when the only recommended movement is breathing or moving the eyes behind closed lids. Being agitated instead of relaxed. Ceasing attempts to separate even when partial success is met. Straining the physical muscles while performing the techniques versus remaining physically motionless. Simply wiggling phantom limbs instead of employing a fixed determination to increase the range of movement, where, going off of memory, I think he recommends to have at least like 4 inches or so of movement before trying to exit your physical body or stencil. Falling right asleep during forced falling asleep instead of having the firm intention of continuing efforts within 5 to 10 seconds, where, if you don't continue your efforts after about 5 to 10 seconds of trying forced falling asleep, well, you might just actually full on fall asleep and lose your conscious awareness. Scrutinizing the details of images when using the technique of observing images. The whole image should be observed panoramically, where, if you try to focus on these hypnagogic images too directly, they tend just to kind of black out, disappear, and you wake up. intentionally trying to force pictures when observing images instead of looking for what is naturally presented. And that's a really important one too. However, if you are getting to the point to where these hypnagogic images are kind of popping up, or in the beginning, a lot of times they're not that long lasting. They pop up, they're kind of short, disappear, another one pops up. If you're in that state, I find that's the perfect opportunity to start trying to have certain types of imagery or dreamlets or dream scenes pop up. Then you can, like, if you get a little bit closer towards your desired end goal, you use that to feed your intention in deeper, keep popping up more images until you get a dream scene that's more along the angle you're trying to take it. And then, you know, you can enter into it that way. And then the last one, simply hearing noises when employing the technique of listening in instead of attentively paying attention to them. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So that'll wrap it up. Until the next video, keep your face practice legit.